This is the latest from Force 13 HQ. You're looking at the Atlantic picture right now. The Western Atlantic has two tropical storms active. Beryl, which we were talking about last night, has survived and is moving very close now to the Lesser Antilles island chain. And of course you've also got Chris, which has formed overnight and is now a tropical storm. Both of them have winds of 45 miles per hour. Chris is heading off towards the northeast, or will be doing in the near future, we hope, and Beryl is moving very close to the islands. Tropical storm warnings are in effect for Dominica and Guadeloupe, as they were last night. Tropical storm watches are currently displayed in Barbados, Martinique, St. Kitts and Nevis, and St. Barthélemy and St. Martin. I think that's all of them. And St. Eustatius and Saba. That's the latest situation there with Beryl, and there's the track map from the National Hurricane Center. As you can see, we expect the storm not to live very long from its current position, and still that wind field is tiny. You can see on the National Hurricane Center's map there the wind extent. If you can see it, it might be difficult for you. Tropical storm force winds extend out a very small distance. I think last time it was only about 30 miles or so. Whilst I'm on the National Hurricane Center's website, just take a look at Chris as well. This is what the National Hurricane Center is predicting out of Chris. Again, just like it was saying yesterday, stalling for around 2 days, and then as we enter Tuesday to Wednesday, it could intensify into a hurricane as it moves off towards the northeast, and one or two models were getting giddy about that. So both storms have winds of 45 miles per hour. In the Western Pacific, Maria has intensified again, and we are expecting that Category 5 will be confirmed once more shortly by the Joint Typhoon Warning Center in their forecast. I'm not sure what the Japan Meteorological Organization administration is saying right now. I'll try and get that to you in just a moment. But the Joint Typhoon Warning Center is saying that will say that the storm has winds of 160 miles per hour and a pressure of 915 millibars. And I can bring to you the Joint Typhoon Warning Center. They're also saying 915, so I'm assuming that it's more the JTWC going with JMA on that intensity analysis. And according to the JMA, it will maintain a similar intensity for around 24 hours. We'll get to the forecast actually now. This is what the Joint Typhoon Warning Center said in the last graphic at 9 AM UTC. Pretty much a straight line towards the southernmost Japanese islands, just north of Taiwan, and then into the coast of China. And you can see as it does that, it will still be a significant typhoon. Just how strong, we'll get to that in just a moment. Let me see which one we've got first. It's Chris. So this is what all the models think of Chris right now. You can see general intensification, and actually the HMON is the one that's gone crazy now. It's actually a little bit cut off on your screen there. Let me see if I can just rectify that by shrinking it a little bit more maybe. So there you can see what the models are predicting. Yeah, HMON going with Category 3 briefly, and what is most curious about that is that the HMON is also predicting a further northerly track. And if you saw the models yesterday, if you're in Nova Scotia right now, maybe it's time to get a little bit nervous with the HMON predicting that. Okay, let's discount the HMON just in case. The HWRF is also going for a new a Nova Scotia close pass or a landfall, and it's predicting Category 2, so that's interesting. The GFS, Category 1 when it passes Nova Scotia, so that's looking very interesting actually. That's much different to what we were looking at last night. Although wind shear will be rising substantially by around day 3. Having said that, if it does get a move on sooner, That's probably what we're going to be watching out for. How long will it be in a quasi-stationary motion for before it gets moving? If it gets moving more quickly, it will have a better chance of being stronger by the time it reaches Atlantic Canada. So that is something to be looking out for here. SSTs, of course, will be significant, and also don't forget, if the storm moves further towards the north just a little bit, it's really getting that sweet spot over the Gulf Stream on those sea surface temperatures. Only a small deviation east or west, generally west more than east, but a small deviation from the Gulf Stream can result in much lower sea surface temperatures, as you can see on the HWRF's forecast model, going down to 24 or below. And looking at that, I don't see how it can get to category 2 based on those temperatures, although the HMON does have more favourable temperatures there. Interesting. And the relative humidity is sinking as well, so maybe we're still looking at on the trend of maybe a weaker hurricane rather than a stronger one, but it cannot be ruled out at all. Let's look at Beryl. Not much to say about Beryl, to be honest. It's still on a gradual weakening trend. It has looked better today, a little bit more convection. Sea surface temperatures aren't a problem. Relative humidity is on a slow decline. It looked like it was gone, out for the count last night. It is still being followed by a trail of dry air. You can see on the imagery here that dry air, the Saharan air layer, quite easy to distinguish on this graphic. Just a mass of dust to the northeast of the storm, but Beryl has been fighting it off this morning, and the tropical storm conditions are likely now in those tropical storm warning areas of Dominica and Guadeloupe. And for its extended track, if it does survive, it may make landfall in the Dominican Republic, but I expect that it will be gone by then, with that wind shear on a stair-stepping rise there to high levels by tomorrow. Finally, Maria, and we figured that this might happen, didn't we, with the lowering wind shear. It did go higher yesterday and it was struggling a little bit, but now the wind shear has lowered, and lo and behold, Maria has intensified and is now up to category 5 again, and it could get maybe a little bit stronger, although the models don't really support that looking at them. So at the moment we're predicting a 160 miles per hour peak, but don't be surprised if it does get a bit stronger than that. Sea surface temperatures, no problem. Relative humidity will get slightly less favourable later on. Pretty good agreement now on the models in which track it's going to take, and it looks like in the end maybe it will just miss Taiwan, just to the north. Now some of the models, CTCX notably, had a landfall halfway down Taiwan, and now it's flip-flopped the other way and has gone almost as far as the middle of China there, just south of Okinawa. But as you can see, some distance away from the Philippines, so the Philippines shouldn't have too many problems, or any problems at all, from Maria. But Taiwan will still be watching very vigilantly. There will be warnings in place there, I'm sure. Japan as well, look at that. The storm's expected to be in that area in around 36 hours, so maybe there'll be warnings there very soon if there aren't already. Just checking that now. First there will be gale advisories issued, and that may actually be the case. Not yet. They're talking about rip currents and high waves, which is obviously understandable. No actual gale warnings in gale advisories in Japan yet, which is equivalent really to a tropical storm watch or warning. But obviously if this was the National Hurricane Center, we'd be putting out hurricane watches for a lot of that chain of islands from Okinawa to Yayama. And just briefly going back to the imagery, I'm not sure it's on this, but I found it curious. Somewhere near the center of the storm right now, it was on the map last night. I'm not sure exactly where it is in relation to the storm now, but there is a very tiny coral reef, Okino Torishima, which is claimed by Japan that the storm will be passing very close to. It is uninhabited, but that is the only land area that the storm is close to right now. But as you can see, Maria, yeah, good value I would say for category 5 status. just let me take a look at the latest frame and to see what that eye temperature is. 16 degrees Celsius. That's more than enough for Category 5 status. The weakest point of the eye wall, minus 70 degrees Celsius. The strongest point, around minus 77. So a little bit, not particularly deep convection there, but it is uniform almost around the eye, looking good. And it is good value for 160 miles an hour. And just a brief look here in the Atlantic once more. Beryl and Chris. You can see Chris is significantly larger, just off the coast of the US. There is some cloud cover along the southeastern states and the Carolinas, but Chris shouldn't be a threat to land, and as a result there are no tropical storm watches or warnings. That's all for me for now on this short update. We'll have some more later on in the day on Force 13. Stay tuned, and for your convenience, subscribe might be a good option on our YouTube channel so that you can get the latest video updates and notifications. I'm reliably informed that you get notified on live events. I don't know how well those notifications work these days, but there we are. But obviously do keep your eyes peeled. That's all for now, and we'll see you again soon.